Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris. This is my channel, Bar 911-970. It is a beautiful sunny day here in South Florida, or at least Southwest Florida, or West Florida, I don't know. Like I said in the title, this is more advice, not a warning or anything like that, because if you've been watching my channel, you know I am not about fear or promoting fear. There's nothing wrong with being prepared for things, but prepared in a way that's not, you're not being scared. Like, you notice the average person, if there's a storm coming, they wait until last minute to get supplies, and then they rush out and try and grab every little thing that they can in panic. That's not the way to live unless you want to live that way and experience what it's like to be a nervous wreck. It is an experience, but not one I recommend. All right, so this is the advice I want to give for people. It's basically advice I've been giving for over 10 years, because there are rumors right now. First of all, it's funny how far the media is lying about what's going on to our people in North America, above, just north of the United States of America Corporation. You say the name, you get blocked. I automatically get my channel, demonetized because I speak the truth. But it's amazing how much they're lying, because one of my aunts was basically saying she heard on the news that the riots, the quote-unquote riots, are over. I'm like, you're flat out being lied to. It's not over. As a matter of fact, more and more Canadians, there goes the video, but more and more of those friendly Canucks are going to be joining, not leaving. And the information I'm hearing is they are faking arrests to basically try and scare people away by showing it on the television from these mainstream media liars. And what I'm hearing, now I'm not there, so I cannot confirm this, but they're saying is they're putting handcuffs, or zip ties around the people, pulling them out of the riot and putting them behind, in their trucks, and then supposedly driving them either a couple of miles down the road or to the next precinct, the police precinct, but they're letting them go because they cannot arrest them because they're protesting peacefully. But let me ask you this, ladies and gentlemen. There are some extreme human rights violations happening over to our people up north. And yet, the Vatican, where are they? You don't see the Pope coming out and, saying that this is wrong. What about our quote-unquote president, Mr. Brandon? Is he have any problem with the crimes against humanity? It doesn't seem so in the place where the Olympics are being taken place right now. But if this was the Middle East, they would already have had 50,000 troops of ours sent over. Now, I'm not saying that's the answer, but it's kind of interesting that they're very radio silent when it comes to the crimes against humanity, because there are people being beaten, pepper sprayed, and not even arrested. They're just being let go, and the funny part is they're coming back. Most of them are just coming back into there. But here's my advice, and I've been telling this for the longest time, and maybe people are starting to listen, because there are rumors now that the United States of America Corporation truckers have a protest of their own they're doing, but they are going to be doing it differently. Now, whether this happens or not, I don't know. I'm not one of the truckers, so I cannot answer this if it's going to happen. But they're saying you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to worry about being arrested. You don't have to waste your gas going from here to here or sleeping in a car in the winter all, for weeks at a time. You could just stay home, drink beer, and watch TV. In other words, what they're trying to plan, and, the difference between a plan and an action depends on the people, but they're planning on shutting down their ability to drive. They're just not going to work, which means products are not going to be quite as available. And if you see what's going on in the world now, things are already getting harder, or at the very least more expensive. It's not that the prices are going up, it's the devaluation of the dollar going down. So my advice to those who've listened is the same advice that I've been saying for the past 10 years. Get yourself some physical gold and silver. Don't spend your entire funds on it, just a little bit, because diversifying is always key. Be careful of the cryptos, because if the cryptos haven't lied to you enough, and I even have a few, but not even enough for one. So, I still have leftover from what I had way over. But the cryptos, they showed Justin Trudeau when he's shutting down people's bank accounts, they even included the cryptocurrencies. I always thought, wasn't everybody told that governments couldn't do that? And I said, there's just no way that that's the truth. And yet they shut them down. So be careful with those. But get yourself some food, things of necessity. And don't forget, not only for you and your family, but your animals if you have pets. And again, not out of fear. It is out of, like, for example, if you know a hurricane is coming or a tornado is coming or something, you want to be prepared by making sure you have batteries and candles and flashlights and, bottled water and maybe a power generator or something in advance. Because if you try and get it last minute, one, it might not be available, and two, it might be 10 times more expensive if you would have bought it the day before. So the idea is to be smart about this. And that's why, if you look on my favorites playlist, you will see a video that says, how to become free. And I've told people, take money out of the banks. The way to get these governments, which, by the way, is quite interesting, that every single government in this world all seem to have the same rhymes with Rovid policies all around the world. No one questioned it. No one did it alternate ways. They all did the same thing. Almost like they planned it. And maybe they planned this whole thing to get people to stay at home, be afraid, get depressed, get angry, get frustrated, and then when people finally had enough, they were hoping on people to become violent, because then the governments can justify sending in the police and the military to arrest you. But these amazing heroes that I consider real heroes up north, the top part of North America, rhymes with Manada, they're not being violent. So the governments are showing their hands. I mean, look at what's happening in New Zealand as well, and other places around the world that you have to find on YouTube, not on social media. I mean, on mainstream media, because they're hiding it. Because hiding the truth is the same as lying. But they're not being violent, and yet the police are still beating people, are still arresting people, are still stealing from people, still violating their rights. But what that's doing is waking up the world. Because people, if they were being violent, if the Canadians were fighting back, which they have the right to do, the mainstream media would not show the cops initiating. They would only show the response from somebody defending themselves, but calling them the initiators. And the mainstream media will lie, not showing the other part of the story. And they'll say, look what these Canadians are beating these poor cops. We need to have them arrested. And the regular Joe Schmoes out there and Joanne Schmoes out there that watch CNN and MSNBC will say, yeah, they do need to be arrested. Look at how violent they're being, even though they don't arrest anybody from Black Lives Matter or Antifa. Quite interesting. They were burning down buildings, killing people, guns in the streets, destroying businesses, and those were called peaceful, mostly peaceful protests. And yet here, there are groups of people getting on their knees in the snow praying and locking hands singing their national anthem, and they're considered domestic terrorists that warrant pepper spray and beatings, 5 cops jumping on somebody with their knees into their head. This is justified. It's amazing. So the whole advice thing is, I've told people all the time, if you want to really defeat an enemy, that's a government. You don't need to fire a gun. You don't need to riot. You don't even need to protest. You know what you do? You keep your currency in your wallet. You don't spend it. Because what you're seeing throughout the world is governments love you when you're doing your job for them. But when you're not, they discard you. I mean, look what they do to veterans of any country's military. They do everything they can once you're in the military to keep you there and to do your job and do what you're told. But once you are no longer needed, they discard you. They throw you away. Yeah, they might give you a couple of shiny pieces of metal. What is it in the grand scheme of things? Can you feed your family with that metal? Here's your prize for being told to murder fellow human beings under their version of a justification while they count all of your money. Take your money out of the banks. Stop spending your money on any of these programs that they sponsor. Stop going on to CNN and MSNBC, even if it's just to thumb it down or leave a nasty comment. They use your emotions against you. So if these truckers here in the United States of America Corporation decide to all unite together and unify and not work, well, that means that these stores are going to start running out of supplies. So again, it's not about panicking. It's about making sure you have enough for you and your family, including your pets, to be able to be okay in case of any emergency. And if you do it that way, you're going to be fine. But it's amazing how right people like me and many others have been over the years. The genius plan of the governments throughout the world have been able to do all of this stuff to the point where they're not even really hiding it anymore, and people do not believe it. Notice how this whole thing that's happening up north in the northern hemisphere of North America is happening just as we're doing the Olympics. So most people are distracted by the Olympics and then might go to MSNBC or CNN or any of these channels just to get a glimpse of what's going on and only hear little tidbits. So I love the fact that I live in Florida, which is the freest place not only in the country but in the world. People need to be careful about their supplies. This like they say, there's a song that says, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. So for this government system to come down, it's a necessary evil for something else new to come. And there's no turning back in now. Canada has shown and exposed things that myself and many others have been trying to tell people for over a decade. But unfortunately, people have to learn at their own pace. If they would have avoided all this stuff 10 years ago, we'd never be here. But you can't base things on what if or what could have been. So for those of you who still think that the government is there to protect you and is there for you, and if you think the military and the police are going to be on your side when all of the good cops, for example, are all quitting, leaving those that are compromisable or just straight out evil to be left to do the dirty work. The cops, or what I call government enforcers in Canada, and I might as well just say it at this point, I don't care, covering their faces, they're using full militarized body armor and gear. So when Trudeau said, we're not sending in the military, does that make it any better that he's basically militarized the police force? Canada, go home. Everybody, if you want to fix it, maybe somebody might think of an idea of, well, when it's tax time, maybe they don't have enough money to pay it. Just hypothetical situation. Maybe there are people who just may not have the money to be able to pay their taxes, and everybody decides, you know what, I'd rather buy a can of soup on that specific day. It's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what anybody should do. I'm just saying you never know. There might be that situation. But get your currency out of banks. At the very least, put them in a federal credit union. It's different than a bank. Stop feeding the system that is what's keeping you under control. Use cash as much as possible. They use convenience in order to slip in evil. Be smarter than that. So that's just my advice. Be very careful about who you listen to. And no matter who you listen to, even if it's me, verify things. Whether you like me or not, don't base what I say on your feelings towards what you think about me on a personal level. You can call me out if you think I'm lying. But if you're going to call me out if you think I'm lying, back it with evidence. Or if you're somebody that believes everything I say, just verify it to make sure I even got it right. But look at some of my older videos. I've been trying to tell people for 10 years about how governments do not let you have the freedoms that you believe you have. Because look how easily they're taking away the rights of these people. They are actually breaking human rights, and nobody is screaming about it. Quite interesting. Be careful, guys. Much love, and I'll talk to you soon.